Hi, welcome back to How To Journey. Hey, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. In this video, we're camping at the Chocorua KOA campground in Tamworth, New Hampshire. We decide we're going to make up our own spooky stories. So keep watching so you can hear what each of us come up with.
Who's going first, Brooke?
My story is the teddy bear story, but Ellie's gonna read it.
Okay.
This is the teddy bear story?
So Brooke's horror story is called The Teddy Bear. Once there was a teddy bear. Well, just let me tell you the story. It was a normal Tuesday when my grandparents came over. My grandma gave me a teddy bear. It was pretty old. It had lots of stitches. My mom and dad left for work, so that's why my grandparents came. I went to bed and woke up in the middle of the night, and there was green coming from the teddy bear. I was so confused. I went to bed, and the next morning, I asked my grandma where she had got the bear. She told me she found it in the basement and gave it to me since it was a bear, and she knows I love bears. She smiled very strangely. The next day, the bear started talking to me. When I told my parents, they thought I was crazy. They even took me to the doctor. Well, the doctor said I was fine, but my parents thought otherwise. Later that night, the teddy bear, who I named Teddy, told me he would protect me no matter what. One day, a kid pushed me. I don't really know why, but they just randomly fell over like every minute. I just thought he was clumsy, but one time, he was held down and could not move at all. He cried so hard he had to go home when he could move again. I told Teddy to be nice to people. The next day, when I walked past people, they would fly to the wall and be pinned until I was 50 feet away from them. And I would hear screaming for 10 seconds. Then it would just stop. I told Teddy to stop being mean. He lifted me up off the ground and told me he might. Then he threw me on the ground. The end.
That's excellent.
The phone. My name is Thomas Ray. I've been working on a missing persons case for the past month. The person missing is Jonah Shirley. Jonah Shirley is 23 years old and was reported missing by her boyfriend James. He said he came home from work and she was nowhere to be found. And the only thing he found was her phone. I tried going through the phone to see what I could find, but I couldn't unlock it. But after a week or two, it unlocked on its own. I started going through it, but there was only 2 apps, text messages and recordings. In the text messages, there was one conversation, and it was with James. She said, "I heard something in our main hallway. Get over here as fast as possible." And James said, "It's fine, and not to worry." But then I checked the recordings and found only one recording.
Who are you? Get away from me!
Nice job, bud.
Where'd you find that?
That?
Yeah.
From a video.
That's good. You included that in there.
Okay, my story is called Lady Slippers. A young girl was playing in the forest. She found a beautiful pink flower growing. As she walked, she saw several more. She thought it was so pretty, she picked it to bring home to her mother. When she got home, she showed her mother the pretty pink flower she picked. To her surprise, her mother was very upset. "You can't pick those. That's a lady slipper." "Why can't you pick them?" the young girl asked. The mother began to tell the story. One winter, 3 Indian girls were playing in the forest. 2 of them thought it would be funny to steal the moccasins of one girl named Lady. They began to run away, and Lady chased them. It began to get dark, and Lady got disoriented in the woods. It was bitterly cold that night. The next morning, the 2 girls were sent back to the forest to find Lady. All they found was 2 pink flowers shaped like moccasins. They picked them and went back to their tribe to say this is all that they had found. The next day, those 2 girls were missing, and 2 new lady slippers were growing in the forest. They say if you pick one, the Indian girl lady comes to get you in the night and takes you to the forest, and you are never seen again. Each lady slipper you see is a person she takes back to the forest. That night, the little girl was scared and asked to sleep with her mom. The next morning, the little girl was missing, and a new lady slipper was growing in the forest. The end.
That was surprising.
Surprising?
My horror story is called The Man Right Behind. It was a normal Sunday morning when your friend randomly showed up at your door. But the thing is, your friend moved to Florida last week and you live in Texas. And you FaceTime like every day, so you don't see why he would come over out of nowhere. You don't think much of it, but one night he's back at your house. And something is off. You just can't put your finger on it. It's late at night, around 10 or 11, so you shoo him off and tell him to come back another day. He comes back the next morning, and you are still suspicious about him, so you FaceTime him, and he answers. But your friend is right in front of you, and he's not on FaceTime at all. Terrified, you tell him to get out of your house and to never come back. He tells you that you will regret this. You think, whatever, what is he gonna do? Later that night, it was pouring rain, lightning, and thunder. You hear a strange noise down at your base. Downstairs, you follow the sound into the basement. Nervously, you turn on a light to go to check it out. It was just your mom. She was getting food for tomorrow morning. Suddenly, all the lights go out. And one light goes to a strange, weird, deformed creature. It is the guy who pretended to be your friend. Screaming, you make it out of the house. There's something holding you back. Then, it's gone. But there's blood pouring all out of your mouth. You see the figure smiling and waving goodbye. You wake up. Think it's just a dream, but you're in a hospital. So was it real? The end.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right, my campfire story is called Hunger for Knowledge. There was a elementary school in a small town, only had about 300 students, and one day some of the students started noticing that more and more of the students kept disappearing. There was always an explanation. Mikey moved, Jessica got in an accident, Jose went to a private school, but the stories never made any sense. These kids and their families just disappeared without warning or without a trace. Their houses looked abandoned. They were no longer on social media or online gaming. They wouldn't answer their phones. Rumors started to flow, of course. I think Jose was deported. Maybe they were abducted by aliens. I think they were murdered by an escaped convict. That was one of the favorite stories. Most of the time, it seemed to be the most recent family that moved into town. Oh, there goes another unsuspecting family, one kid said to another as they witnessed a new kid taking the tour of the school with his mom and dad. All over the town just seemed a bit off. See, not just the kids were disappearing, their whole families. So there was lots of help wanted signs and abandoned properties. It just was a weird place. So one day, the new kid comes into class, the kid that was taking the tour with his parents, and the teacher introduced him. Hello everybody, this is Jackson from Mississippi. Jackson took his seat. Class began. During recess, a group of kids, introduced himself. Hey, Jackson from Mississippi. He laughed. Hey guys. He said, I'm Tom, but everybody calls me Tex. This is Beth. This is Robbie. They're kind of a group of kids that were good friends. So a few weeks went by, and the kids all became closer friends with Jackson. And Jackson noticed that the teachers that were once happy, pleasant, became more irritable, more agitated, more aggressive. And Tex, Beth, and Robbie just explained that's how it was there. And kind of told them about all the missing kids, families that had been happening. One day, teachers were in a good mood, so they had extended recess that day. During the extended recess, Jackson and Robbie went looking for a soccer ball in the equipment room. So they were searching around. They searched behind some lockers way in the back, and they found a bunch of discarded clothes and backpacks. And Robbie said to Jackson maybe they were for like a donation or something, but then they noticed that one of the backpacks was kind of bloody. So they opened it up and they found a wallet, and it said Theodore Moore. Robbie told Jackson that Theodore, who went by Teddy, was actually his friend and was one of the kids that just disappeared one day. So they're like, well, we should probably get out of here before we get caught. What are you doing? Mr. Skinner, the gym teacher, came in, asked them what they were doing, and Jackson quickly thought, well, we were looking for a soccer ball, as he picked one up. So we found one right here. So they pretended that they didn't see anything in the back to not draw suspicion, and they just grabbed their ball and headed out the door past Mr. Skinner. When they got back to recess, they found Tom and Beth, and they told them what they had found in the equipment shed, equipment room. They speculated that maybe Skinner was the serial killer, and that was what was happening to all the kids and families. So the next day, they tried not to look too suspicious. And the teachers were really on edge that day. So Jackson and Robbie brought Beth and Tom to the equipment room to show them what they had found. There was a huge padlock on the door. Beth then decides to tell the group that she swears that Mrs. Clark was wearing Jessica Thompson's earrings. Jessica was the girl that supposedly her and her family died in a car accident while they were on vacation in some other state. She knows that they were her earrings because Jessica, who was her good friend, told her that they were custom made by her aunt, who was a jeweler, so they were really unique. The group decided that they should go back and explore the school when nobody's there. So Robbie rigs one of the windows so it can't lock. They go back that night to explore. Everything seems pretty dark, pretty quiet, but as they're going down one of the hallways, they can see a light. And as they get closer, they realize it's the kitchen. And they can start hearing that there's people in there. So without getting too close, they can see off one of the glasses on the doors. They can see the reflection in there. And they can see a bunch of teachers that are all hastily working to prepare a meal. It's just so out of the ordinary. And one teacher says to the other teacher, "That's the last of it." The other teacher snaps back, I know. They decide they're getting too close, so they decide to get out of there before they get caught. They go home, everything goes okay. The next day, the teachers are pleasant and happy. Extended recesses again, movies, no homework. Days go by, everything seems pretty normal. Until one Friday, Jackson the new kid from Mississippi, gets called down to the office. When he returns from the office, goes to recess. His friends ask him, "What's up?" He said, "They say I'm cheating in my classes, and that my parents and I are supposed to meet with Principal Marston tonight at 7. Beth says, 7? No way you can go to that. So they formulate a plan. Tex, Tommy, who's really good with computers, decides he can fabricate an official looking document. Looks like it's from the school. So he does that during his computer lab at the end of the day, explaining that it was a misunderstanding and that the school faculty offers its fullest apologies to the family. The forgery worked. His parents believe it. And because Jackson was supposed to go to the school to meet the principal, they had no plans for dinner, so the family went out to dinner instead. And that was Friday. The weekend went pretty quiet. Monday came around, and Jackson, Beth, and Robbie all met on their way to homeroom. All the teachers seemed to be extra smiley that day. As they were walking by the office, Miss Draper, the office manager, waved them on. "Do you three want to help me with this morning's announcements?" she asked with a smile. Why? And why not? You know, anything's better than going to homeroom. "Here you go, Beth. Read these. I was running late this morning. I'm trying to finish my breakfast." So Beth starts to read. "Soccer tryouts this afternoon. Theater needs more cast members. Today's lunch menu," all the basic stuff of a morning announcement. When she finishes, "I'll take it from there, sweetie," says Mrs. Draper. She wiped her mouth quickly with a napkin, handed it to Beth. Jackson, Beth, and Robbie sat to listen to Mrs. Draper. "Now, I have some exciting news," she said, "regarding Thomas Pratt, or Tex. Most of you know him. Tex and his family have joined the Better Futures organization and will be helping the less fortunate by building houses, schools, and water wells in remote areas in Africa." Jackson, Robbie, and Beth look at each other in disbelief. Miss Draper continues, "Mr. and Mrs. Pratt expressed to us that it has always been their desire to help the less fortunate. We wish them the best." She closes her announcement. As Miss Draper finished her announcement, she looked up with them with a smile that was slightly dripping with what looked like blood from her breakfast. As Beth looked down at the sticky napkin in her hand that Miss Draper had handed her, she shared with Jackson and Robbie that it was actually a blood-smeared copy of the document Tex had made. The three of them turned to run. They were blocked by the principal, Mr. Marston, and the janitor. "I think it would be best if you kids come with us. We could use some help reorganizing the equipment."
Tex is dead.
Oh no, he got eaten.
That's his dinner.
Tex is
And lunch.
Nice job, Daddy.
Question: is Tex from Texas?
I don't know.